everyone, welcome back. This is MC1 Gamer. Been away for a while, haven't been really rumor mongering, but I have been keeping tabs on the things that have been going on out there in the related to Warhammer Fantasy and 9th edition. Now, we've heard a lot of things, especially over the last few months, about what could or might not be happening with 9th edition. There's been a lot of rumors, been a lot of pictures, been a lot of debate. We've had knowledge that there's going to be something coming out at some point this year, and pretty solid information about a new edition with all kinds of different variants for quite some time. But the latest information I've been getting, and again, I've been out of the loop for a little while, but I've reasserted and reconnected with people that I've been communicating with since I rebuilt my PC. And if you don't know, if you've been following my channel, you don't know, my PC fried a few months back, and I just wasn't putting out much content, working almost exclusively off of mobile devices, and now I finally have a desktop again, so I can get back into the swing of things. So I've been reaching out, and some of the information I've been getting is really interesting. The fact that potentially Warhammer Fantasy could be coming out in the next couple of months, and that's astonishing, especially considering a lot of the rumors otherwise that have been fairly solid have been pointing towards August, the latest, but most likely July. And there's been all kinds of different rationale on why that's the case. There's been analysis of open dates and when other releases are happening, and ordering of T-shirts and contact with various vendors and stores, and all kinds of stuff like that. And without going into some of the speculation and some of the information also that I've been getting about the details of what's going to be in 9th, and I could go over some of that stuff, but a lot of it is out there and is been regurgitated through a lot of other mediums, and some of it's very similar to what I've been hearing and what I'm getting. But what I'm hearing is that this could be happening in the next couple of weeks. This could be happening before the end of May, and that's a big surprise, because that's the only time that I've heard that. And I haven't really been hearing anything in the last couple of weeks about it being imminent. We've heard some details about, for instance, that the game is going to be, there's no more big red rule book, and it's going to be more of like what they do with 40K, where it's several smaller books, soft covers, which is good for transportation purposes, because nobody wants to lug around this massive textbook on crack everywhere they go, which was the big red rule book in previous editions. But now aside from the idea that maybe you might get a digital download, if you want a hard copy, there's going to be 3 different books that are going to break out things from visual and painting guides to the actual rules, which are going to be very truncated, very, very specific, and they'll still be detailed, and it'll still be a fairly complex game, but it's obviously going to be streamlined. And then another book, which I imagine would include things like scenarios and whatnot. We might be hearing different things about what might encompass these 3 books, but suffice to say that the strongest thing I'm hearing of late is that it's not going to be the big hardcover, huge giant hardcover book. It's going to be a bunch of smaller soft covers, and that's a good thing. What it also means is that it might be streamlined rules for the various different modes of play that we've all been hearing about. And if you don't know about that, we're talking about a skirmish game with smaller units, not all bunched up into blocks, very much like a Mordheim type game, or what a lot of people are calling now Mordheim 2.0, which would be great. That would be phenomenal, because I am a huge fan of Mordheim. I still play it. A lot of people I know still play it. And in any case, the next part would be a pre-End Times game as we know it now, 8th edition, but with updated rules. So about 20 to 30% I'm hearing of rule changes, streamlining, modifications, which, the game kind of needed. It was a balanced game. 8th edition is still very balanced, widely regarded by many people, and discussed in the circles with a lot of the YouTubers as the best balanced game to date, but still has a lot that needs to be corrected and a lot needs to be adjusted. But that's the nature of the game. You should always be looking for improvement, but there's certainly holes in the game system that should be filled up, and maybe that's something that we might be seeing with an adjustment to the large block games that we've come to know and love to date. And then the third version of the game is what everybody is kind of losing they're losing their head about, is what would be the post end times, where the future of the game, where you still can play the modified and updated 8th edition, but we're talking about like 9th edition post end times, after the whole world has been destroyed, and all these new factions, and how they might be situated, and what kind of capabilities they have, how they might look, how is it the bubble world, or whatnot. Suffice to say that it seems to be that there's going to be fragments of realities that are out there in the warp after the destruction of basically everything at the end of 8th edition with the fluff, and we're going to be jumping ahead 200 years apparently into the future, and these factions will have changed, and some will have merged and modified, and we'll be seeing a lot of that. But what we're seeing with that is that it might be a somewhat smaller game. It could still be a very large block game, but we're still going to be seeing unit formations that would utilize the square bases. So please don't flip out about the idea that you can't use your existing armies. But what a lot of the credibility has been in the idea that leader types and monsters and big war machine types are going to be on round bases, and they're going to be, if they're not individual powers and with stats of their own, in some cases, especially character type models, they're going to be enhancements to the units, which is a mechanic we've seen in things like Lord of the Rings. I see it in a game I just recently picked up, a historical game called Saga, which is Dark Age, again, historical units, warbands, and the leader type is not really a huge powerhouse, as like the Hero Hammer that people are always freaking out about. They really just give enhancements to units. And we've seen some elements of that in Warhammer 8th, like the Dwarven Rune Lord, which can give things like an increased armor piercing to the unit they're in, or other units, other character types, heroic or lord level, champion or lord level, that can provide enhancements if they're inside of a unit with that unit. And we might be seeing things where they just need to be within a certain range nearby, and those would probably be on round bases. So we might be seeing some changes, but in that regard, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. That means that you still can use all the great stuff that you love, but there'll be some changes in the way you use them, and you don't have to rebase things. You can put new stuff on round bases if you want, or if you have stuff that still applies and you want to keep it on your square bases, you're good to go. That's what I'm hearing. I'm also hearing things like, in addition to some of the game mechanics and some of the tiers, and again, none of this is terribly new, but the idea that this is going to be a living game, the evolution of Warhammer is going to be taking a page from a lot of other very successful game systems, where new box sets of units are going to be released with the rules included, and they're going to be fairly limited. In other words, if you don't get them, and 6 months later they'll be discontinued, and they're gone, they're done. You'll be stuck with the secondary market, or if there's ever a future release. And that way they can keep introducing new stuff, and there'll be more interest to continue to purchase things by the customer base. What's also good about that, and that's not necessarily such a great thing in terms of being a customer, because if you want to keep up on the latest, greatest of everything, you're going to have to buy a lot of stuff, or at least try to find a way to get copies of the rules if you're not going to actually play those units yourselves. But the positive of that is that you don't have to worry about the updates of the rule books constantly. 4 years go by, or in the case of some of these other books like Tomb Kings and Bretonnia, 10 years go by, and you have a completely out-of-dated army. If the army books remain static, and what we're seeing is new units and new characters and new whatever introduced that can affect the game, you're not looking at a complete revamp of the rules or a complete reorganization and restructuring of an army. You're looking at enhancements that can apply to just a lot of different armies and a lot of different factions and a lot of different list types, and that is very interesting. You see that with things like Fantasy Flight Games with X-Wing and a lot of other game systems where they can introduce box sets or new releases with cards or enhancements or whatnot, and they can completely change the way you play. You know, the meta is going to constantly be evolving and changing. You really got to be on your toes as far as that's concerned. And while this is not a card game where new cards can be introduced, a new unit or character or something or a monster could really have an impact if they have the ability to be used with a lot of different list types and a lot of different factions. So it's something to think about. It certainly will be a little bit different. You're not going to have just your own army book and that's the end of that, which I think is actually superior. I'm pretty happy about that idea because, you know, as much as you want to have the character of your specific army in your army book, you know, you want to have your orcs and goblins, your empire, well, there's a lot of different types of chaos, but you know, there's all kinds of lists you can build within these books. The idea that you know you have more flexibility could mean a little bit more stability for the game, because then you don't have a situation where you know your book is 5 years down the road, you know, it's starting to really show its age with a lot of new power creep that's coming in with new books, whereby you can still have the fluff and the flavor of the army that you like, and there will be new stuff that could enhance that further. And they could be very fluffy and very much like specific types of armies, maybe only usable with certain factions. We'll have to see, but that seems to be where we're going. That's what I'm hearing, but the big thing is very good possibility, if my source is correct, that we could be seeing the next edition of Warhammer within the next couple of weeks. So if you know any information, if you've got anything credible about this, you know, if you want to weigh in, please feel free to discuss. Be polite. If you know anything about my channel, I want you know, calm and non-trollish posting if you want to post. No wars here, no flames, no rudeness, please. But if you have information, if you have anything that substantiates this, or if you think that you have solid information that just says this is nonsense, feel free to post it and try to please back it up. If you know, unless you don't want to out anybody that if you've got any interesting pipelines of information, but if you know that you're getting it from and you know specifically where, when and where and what, feel free to post what information you know and protect your sources. But we want to know that it's not just speculation. So if you're just speculating, or you're just posting what you saw on something like Warseer or Bell of Lost Souls or Fayette 212, it's probably there's a lot of good stuff coming from people out there, but there's also a lot of nonsense and speculation. So please try to be curb the speculation. In any case, that's it. We'll have to see. If the next couple of weeks this is true, we will know. And thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you guys and gals, because there's apparently about 5% of my followers who are gals. And but thank you for keeping with me and staying subscribed during my hiatus. I'm hoping to put out more content, certainly more bat reps and much more interesting stuff over the course of time, and especially as we gear up for 9th. And of course, as everybody should know, if you've been keeping track, I've also bridged the gap with historical stuff that I'm getting involved with, and we'll be seeing some of that content too. So I'm going to be playing, looking at a lot of different games, and I'll be doing reviews as well of new game systems that are coming out. Have a great day, everybody.